Morning and welcome back to Alan's Allotment. Today I'm doing a requested video by at least 3 individuals around basic wiring up of a solar system. Now this is really aimed at people who have zero knowledge and they've requested this video, so if you could try to keep the criticisms to the minimum, and I'm doing this very crudely because of time constraints, but we're just going to give them a basic understanding of what they can do with a solar system. So the first thing we have is a battery, and I won't be in shot just because of the way and limited space I have for to do this. So here we have a battery. I just happen to have stuck these connectors on the top just to try and simplify it and speed the process. Any battery will do. The rule of thumb is bigger the better, basically. This one's 48 amps. It's actually only 36 amps. 110 amp leisure batteries. It depends on your needs. If all you want to do is run a few 12 volt lights, this will probably do your job. If you just want to charge your phone and charge a radio, things like that with low draw, this is probably going to be more than you need. That's 36 amp battery, about 40 quid thereabouts in a shop. Then you're going to need a charge controller. Now this one has seen better days, but it does still work, and we're using this for demonstration purposes just because this is the one that I have to hand. And it's exactly the same. Whatever solar controller you use, the connections will be exactly the same. Now this is optional. I've got a little 12 volt meter here. Again, it's seen better days. It's got sticky plasters on and all sorts. And you don't even need to do this this step, but I'm doing this because I inherited this solar panel. Basically I repaired a computer for someone and they had taken this down and said, hey, you can have that. So that's very gratefully accepted, and this is a 100 watt solar panel, and in maximum capacity this will push out 6.5 amps. In full sunshine you'll get 6.5 amps out of that, going into that every hour. Right, so it came with these connectors on from where it was assembled. So all I'm going to do first of all is we'll check, does it work? So we'll find the negative wire, which is black in most instances, and the red is live in most instances. So we'll put the probe into the negative side, black, into black. And then we take the red wire and we're going to insert it into the end of this red connector and see if we get a reading on the solar panel. So we need to turn turn the meter to measure volts in DC, because it's just battery power. So we're going to stick this in there and see if we get any reading at all. Now I'm going to be rather difficult, so I'm just holding this with my thumb. Let's see if we can't jam that in there somehow. And as you can see, the solar panel, hopefully if it's focusing, is reading 12.57, which is about 12.5 volts. Now as you can see, the solar panel isn't even looking at any daylight at the moment. Let's tip this back a little bit. So we've got at least some daylight now hitting that. And you can see the voltage goes up significantly. It's now even not in direct sunlight, just in ordinary daylight, and these still work without full sunshine, however at a lesser capacity. You'll see now we're getting 18.19 volts DC. So that, as is, would charge this battery. Obviously, if you locate the solar panel and point it into the sun, then you're going to get much better results. Now then, we now know that works, so I'll just turn off the meter, and as I say, that's an optional step. If you're buying something new, it's almost certainly going to work, but there's no harm in double checking. You don't need a meter to do this, and basically solar panels come in all shapes and sizes. As you can see, this is a rather large one. This is 100 watts and it's capable of putting out 6.5 amps. But if you look round here, I think you can just about see in the window. No, sorry, let me get the other side. You can see this little small solar panel I've got rigged up, and that's charging my batteries, no problem. That's 25 watts. And you can see it's pointing out of the window in the direction where we get sun mostly, and it's behind PVC, but it still does the job. Again, it's horses for courses, it's whatever you want, and that's a nice little neat panel. It only puts out, I think that one puts out 2 amps, maybe 1.5. That's in bright sunshine, and you'll get 1.5 amps an hour into your battery. Moving round back to our table. So we now know the solar panel works because we've tested it with the meter. So we can put that away and put this to one side. I don't want this to drag on too long, but I'll try and keep it basic as possible. And it may run on a little while, but then people who don't know nothing at all about solar systems may benefit from that. And if they're really interested, they'll watch it to the end. Now then, a solar controller charger. You can get these on eBay, Amazon, pretty much anywhere. This one I think is only a 10 amp one, and it goes without saying, if you're going to be drawing heavy currents from the battery, especially using an electrical inverter if you wished, which is a whole new ball game, we're not going to go down that route today, then you will want a higher amperage, so you will want 30, 50 amps, something like that should be sufficient. But this is 10 amp. Let's pretend we're going to just control LED lights, charge a few phones, charge a radio up, and a few other bits and bobs. But I will show you that it can even boil a kettle. Oh, you'll wait a long time for it though. But let's go and get started. So you have a charger controller here. Excuse me. I'm trying to get this as close as I can. And if you can see, they are marked up. All the holes are marked up, so you can't really get this wrong. And the 2 centre ones is your positive and negative for the battery, and we connect the battery first. And then I think, yeah, on this side, it shows you a picture of a solar panel, and you put your positive and negative in accordingly from the solar panel. Then out of this side, we have our power coming out to whatever devices we wish. And we also have on this, if my memory serves me right, yeah, the little button here. You can actually kill everything out of here just by pressing the button. That's off, and then press it again, and that puts power to there. And we've got 2 USB devices, sockets here we can also charge through. I think that's about 10 quid on eBay or something like that. But yeah, and I've had this many years, and it's still going. And it can be used as an emergency supply. So let's get cracking. We'll get it wired up, and then we'll show you the wiring, and we'll let you watch me do this, and hopefully you can see it'll be good enough in here and get that connected up. However, we want the battery connected first. So all I'm going to do is find some scrap wire that I've got lying about, just to make this really crude, and get this up and running basically, to show you how this works. So here I've got some 3-core wire. All I'm going to do is snip off the earth wire. It's not needed. And this is just ordinary household wire that you would wire lights in the house. It's only fairly thin core, but it's thick enough to do what we want. If you're using high amperage draw from the battery, you'll want thicker and better quality wire. But for this purpose, this will be sufficient. So I'll bet £1,000 I don't have a screwdriver small enough to go in there. Let me have a look. I'll pause the video out. Right, we'll try again. So, solar controller panel, remember we said they go into, the battery goes into the middle. So we're going to wire the battery up first. In this particular instance, we've got blue and brown. Blue is neutral and brown is live. So what we'll do is don't let them touch, because I've actually got them connected to the battery already, just to save a bit of time. So we find the two, and on here, I'll have to put my Poundland specials on to see this. On here, they are clearly marked positive and negative. So you take your positive wire, insert it into the underside here, hold it in place, and then nip it up. Now I'm having to use this electric drill because it's the only one I could find with a screwdriver blade that was thin enough to go in here. Then the neutral goes into the neutral side on the battery, and we screw that one up. And now we have, hopefully you can see this, the solar controller working. It's that simple. So the live goes to the live side of the battery, and always just use this bit of scrap wire, household wire, that's normally used for wiring lights. Just to show you this for demonstration purposes. So the brown wire goes to the live side of the battery, and the blue wire goes to the negative side of the battery. It is that simple. And there you have your solar controller working. Now then, to hold these wires on, I've basically wired up a 12 volt car cigarette lighter socket as well. So technically that's live as well. Okay. Right, now we have the battery connected. The next thing we need to do is put the solar panel in there. So I've already taken off the ends of this. You must make sure they do not touch, because if they do, you will short out the solar panel behind us. Now what you can do, you can actually put a piece of cardboard completely over your solar panel, whatever size it is, and just temporarily tape it on to keep the light off the solar panel, so that if you did slip, that's just a little tip, you can put a piece of cardboard over and seal it off so it gets no daylight before you start any of these, if you're in any doubts. However, as long as you're careful, you shouldn't have that problem. So now we have the solar controller panel charger working. It clearly shows you where the solar panel goes and which is your switch for your on off. So we now need the solar panel to charge this battery. So what we're going to do, again, which marked positive and negative, and what you will notice under here is your positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. You can't really get this wrong, guys. You really can't. So here we go. We're going to start with the positive. This is really thick cable because it was designed obviously for high amperage, and that's what I would suggest. So let's go. We'll get the positive side into the positive side of the controller and screw it down like so. And I've only got a short length of wire to work with here, so again we put the negative side into the controller where it needs to go, and we screw it down. So the next thing you're going to see on here now is you'll see it's charging. This is our solar panel that's flashing away there. That's our battery we wired up in the centre to power this. The solar controller, we've now connected the solar panel, and it shows you a little picture, and it shows you it's flashing, which means it's charging. Okay. The only thing we need to do now is take two wires out of here to power whatever it is we want to power. Okay. So there's, I'll give you a quick overview of my system I've already got set up. But I just want to show you there's a couple of scenarios here. So first of all, we're going to test this now. We'll put that solar panel back like that so it's getting more daylight, really keeping this battery charging whilst we're using power. So we've got a little fan here, 5 volt USB. So we'll test the USB sockets. And this is a switched fan, so consequently it's using nothing at all plugged in. We can turn the switch on and we should get this fan to turn. Just like that. Turn it off. And there we are. That's the very basic principle of solar power. So you have your battery that stores the energy. You have your solar panel that feeds that energy from natural daylight and sunshine to charge that battery. So we've got a fan that works from the USB already, taking the power from here and that putting in the solar panel here, down here, putting the power back into the battery. Now then, I also have a little 12 volt uplighter that just happens to be ready with the wires bed. So just for demonstration purposes. So on here, you may or may not be able to see on the camera, there's a bulb actually lit up on this display. And if I press that button, it goes out. That means the power out of here is now turned off. And you can turn the entire circuit off by that one button on the solar controller. So using our same principle again, in this case we have red and black. So red's our positive and black is our neutral. So we've went positive, negative, positive, negative. So it stands to reason it's going to go positive and negative. So what I'm going to do here, this isn't switched, but there is a switch on the controller. So what I'm now going to do is screw this into place just for demonstration. And we have now wired our light up, and when I press this button on the solar controller, it should turn on. So you see, anything at all that comes out of here, it already has a switch built into the solar controller, and you can kill all of the power overnight, so it's not draining any batteries, simply by pressing that button. But I hear you say, well, what if I want to run some things but not others? So that can be done as well. Let's turn off this and we will unship it. So there's the 12 volt light disconnected. Now then, in theory, you can even do this. Oop. So this is a bit overkill, but if you want simplicity in the end, then you can do this. So here I have an old 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 way extension plug. I have a 2-way extension, and on the end of here I don't have any plugs. So what I can do is we can take off the earth. We don't need it, it's only a 12 volt system, and in this case we've got brown, which is live, and we've got blue, which is our neutral. So positive live, positive live, positive live. And what we can do is we can wire all of these sockets up in here now. And there is all of our sockets wired up. So this is the simplest way of doing switching. So we've got our sockets wired up, but these are not 240 volts. You can only get out what you put in. So we're taking 12 volts out of here at the end of the controller. So these sockets are only 12 volts now instead of 240 volts. Although they're wired up exactly the same, we now have switches and we can turn off things individually. Okay, so you put a 3-pin plug on the end of your 12 volt device and plug it in there. Likewise with that, and if you put 3-pin plugs on all of your 12 volt devices, you can technically just do that and keep daisy chaining from this. That's another video if you need to see it. Okay, So that's the basic principle of being able to switch on from here. Obviously you'll turn your power on initially from here, so it's on and it's live, and then you would control your switching via these. In a nutshell, that's the simplicity of that. We will now take out the sockets and we'll do something else. Okay, let's now wire this light up with a short length of wire as opposed to putting it direct in there. So let's have a little look. What can I do here? Excuse me. So what we're going to do, I've got this big long length of wire, which is just a piece of scrap wire, and we're just going to pretend now we want to run a cable down the shed to power a light down the other end of the shed. So again, we've got brown and blue, brown being the live and the blue being the negative. Now you're only working with 12 volts here as well, guys, so you can't do yourself any harm, other than if you reverse polarity, you might blow the controller. So as long as you follow the principles and the guides on there, you shouldn't get this wrong. So we've got positive, negative, positive, negative, and it's clearly marked on here. We put the positive in there, we'll wire that up, and then we'll put the negative into there, and we'll wire that one up as well. Now then, it's turned off as well, by the way, because if these two wires here, which have got tape over as it happens, hadn't been insulated and they touched, we basically short out the unit. So I'll take off the tape now, making sure to keep the wires separated. And what would happen now is we'll just, for demonstration purposes, this is a great big length of wire running down your shed, and we're now going to wire this up. As I say, you can wire this up to a switch, an ordinary household switch, to switch it up and down. So positive to positive, negative to negative. So we've now ran, let's pretend we've ran this great big length of cable all the way down the shed, and now I want to turn the light on. And there you go. Right, that's that one. We've turned it off. Always turn off before you disassemble and reassemble. Actually, no, I'm going to leave these connected and we'll show you something else. So we'll leave that wire connected, but instead of having a light on it this time, we're going to, I don't know, we'll put a cigarette lighter onto the end of this so we can boil a kettle. So again, this is a very, very crude video, and it's just to show you the different things that you can do in hopefully as short a space of time as possible. So again, I'm using quick snap connectors, etc. So here I have a cigarette lighter socket. You can purchase these on Amazon and eBay, all over the place. Live is our brown, so we connect the red clip to that wire, and blue is our negative, so we connect the black wire to that. So technically speaking, we now have this wire, this great big long wire, down the other end of the shed, and on the end of that wire we've got our cigarette lighter connected to that big long cable. Remember, do not let these touch. So we'll put them like that so they can't touch. And now I just happen to have a 12 volt kettle with a car lighter connector. So what we can do now is we can plug in our cigarette lighter socket like so from the solar controller charger. Now remember, this is a 12 volt kettle, not 240 volts. It's designed to run on 12 volts. So what you should find, when I turn the switch on in here, it will give us power to this kettle. So I turn the switch on, nothing's happened yet, but if I press the power button, you should now be able to see the red LED light. But it's flashing. Now, that could, I'm not sure, let's have a go again. Yeah, I know what that is now. So this here, remember about the high amperage? This has high amperage, and it's flashing to tell me there's a fault. I'll leave it flashing like that, and I'll also show you the solar controller, and you'll see that the solar controller now, hopefully, is also flashing, and it's flashing between 12 volts and 10, and it's basically saying that the draw is too high. Turn it off, and our solar panel solar system stabilizes. So that's actually a good thing if that happened, because it shows you if you get a fault what it more than likely is. The amperage that this will draw, or the watts that this will draw out basically, is too high for this system. However, it is also possible that this is faulty. It is possible, even though it's relatively new. That could be something else, because I have boiled this kettle on a 12 volt system on another video. Took a long time, but it did work. Okay, so let me turn the power off on here, and then we will disconnect everything. But basically there's your system up and running. And to turn the power on to anything that comes out of here, you simply press that button, and that lets the power out to your entire circuitry. Right, I'll give you a quick look around my system amongst the junk, just so you can see what I did. Right, so here you can see I have a 12 volt LED light already illuminated, just so we can show you. So down here I have another charge controller, just a different style, charging this battery, which is already perfect. I'm just keeping it topped up. You seen in the last video I took it down home and it was fully charged. We just put it on trickle charge overnight just to boost it up, and I've just put it back on charge again using this solar controller charger. That obviously is wired up. It's a different style, so we won't confuse you, but this is a very similar style, this one. So I have a 100 watt solar panel up on the roof outside, and again we have this slightly different solar controller charger. But what you'll notice is brown, blue, brown, blue, brown, blue. Okay, because that's just happened to be the cable I use, brown and blue, for the cable source. It also has USB connectors, which I have several connected. I'm charging a little radio up here. I can charge my wireless microphones up and everything out of these USB sockets. From here, this is our power out, and again I can press this button and turn off the power if I so wish. And we can check, and it's showing us that it's gotten some daylight. It's putting some charge into there. There we go. There's the little LED, little bulb that shows that this is turned on, and I leave it turned on all the time. So what we do is we run the cables up, and basically we came along here for the first run. Oh, we're getting to the light now. And up here we put a connector, and we took, I've got two in and two out. So that's our first light in, and another cable coming back out. So it's basically, in effect, it joins those wires together. And the second set of wires, they go through a hole in the beams. So what I've done is I've give one feed to this, and then took another feed out of that feed through here to the next light. And with this little chocolate block here, we've actually took two feeds this way and our next one out. You see the colours change, but I was just a wire I had at the time. But now we've got one to the light itself, and we have another one that runs down here all the way down to our tap. Now then, you'll hear the pumper on, but there's no water coming through because it's frozen solid in the barrel. There you go. That's our 12 volt tap, and I showed you how to wire that up in the last solar video if you want to check how that works. But what I like about these lights is we can have them on independently or all at once. So we have one, they've got their own switches, so I can turn it off and on. I can turn this one off, but it keeps the circuit live, and I can just turn this one on instead. And then I've done the same thing, following the line, the wire all the way through the roof rafters into the other side of the shed, and we have another light here which we can turn on, because all of these are switched, so you don't need any switches. And we've also got one down here. Oh wow, it's really cold in here, guys. And there we go, I have another light there. So sorry the camera work at the end is really bad, but that gives you a rough idea of how you set this up. Now this runs 24/7 as well, so this even runs all night from this solar charger controller, so it's constantly drawing from this battery under the bench. This is just wired up. This one here is the one that's wired up to that permanently. And basically we took a feed off into the back of this to power this as well. Now that runs all night basically, and there's obviously still enough charge in there to keep that, and when the sun comes up it starts to put a bit of feed back into the battery. As you can see, this will drop up and down as it starts to get a charge. It's gone to full again now, but it was starting to draw a little bit when we put the lights on, and that's basically how the controller works. Right, hopefully that hasn't dragged on too long. Like I said, this was aimed at people who requested the video to show them the very, very basic principles of the solar system. If you have any questions, leave them in the sections below, and I'll try to get back to you and answer anything that I can, or even do another video to clarify things that you may still not understand. We'll try and do that for you. So it's absolutely freezing, my hands are dropping off, and I'm going to make my way down home. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and you have a little bit better understanding of how to put your equipment to use now. So I've just left this solar system running, and it's charging this battery basically. So that's all three batteries are on charge. This solar panel, as I say, that we acquired was just sitting in another shed doing nothing, so we might as well leave it there just for now. I know it'll be set up correctly, but we might as well leave it there now. And as we've already done this little project, we might as well leave it charging this battery up. As always guys, wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be practical, and keep yourselves out of harm's way. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video. Don't forget to like, dislike, leave a comment in the section below, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you again.